पहले मैं अपने हिंदी भाषियों को बोलना चाहता हूं कि आज हमने अंग्रेजी से हिंदी में अनुवाद का विशेष व्यवस्था करी है। तो जो लोग हिंदी में इस प्रोग्राम को देखना चाहते हैं, सुनना चाहते हैं, उनके लिए लिंक मैंने शेयर कर दिया है और ग्रुप में भी लिंक दिया हुआ है। जो लोग ग्रुप के अंदर हैं तो उस लिंक को दबा के आप लोग इस प्रोग्राम का हिंदी में अनुवाद भी सुन सकते हैं। तो now I like to introduce, as you already know about Kishori, Mohan, Prabhu and Sudevi, Didi. They have been very, very fortunate from the birth, I would say. Not everybody gets this kind of chance in this world to be with devotees from the very birth. So they were born in temple in ISKCON, and they have seen, and they have also have some leelas with Srila Prabhupada. They have had some prasadam from him, both of them. So it's very, very fortunate, I think, just to even see such Mahabhagavat and to be in close association to get some prasad from him. It's very, very, I think, matter of great fortune. So they grew up in the society of Bhakts, devotees, and they were in the temple. Their childhood was spent in the temple and Gurukul, and all their life was centered around Krishna, their childhood. And many times, as I already said, they received Mahaprasad from Srila Prabhupada. And in 1996, they met our Gurudev, Nitlila Pravishtom Vishnupad Ashtota Srimad Bhaktivedanta Shri Narayana Gosvami Maharaji. That is in their first, I think, Maharaji's first trip to West, 1996 he did. So that time they met him, and immediately they were attracted by his qualities, and by they recognized him as a Mahabhagavat, which is not very easy for most of us to do. To recognize a Mahabhagavat is not an easy task. Even now we are struggling to get some darshan of Srila Gurudev, but they have been very lucky that to know him as a pure devotee in the very first time they met him, and they took Diksha from him and took his shelter, and Maharaji was very happy to have them as disciples. And in 2000, Maharaji gave them a very unconventional and a special instruction. Even though they are grahast, but they don't have a graha. They don't have a house, even though they are called householders. So they are more like a temple, or what do you call, Banprasthis. So, and Gurudev has given them this order to preach around the world. And they have been following this order very, very with full force and full ability till now. And most of the year they are traveling throughout the world. This year, because of COVID, they have been in one place for quite some time. But even in that, they have been staying in Vrindavan Dham for some time this time. But from the Dham, they are doing program every day. Every day, 5 o'clock, they start their program. And it's for 2 to 3 hours. They do kirtan, and then they do speak on various topics. You can hear, Prabhuji?
Yes.
Okay.
Sometimes we have difficulties where the phone disconnects.
It's fine.
So I just wanted to make sure.
Okay.
I told you to speak a little.
So yes, they have been spreading the voice of Guru Varga and Caitanya Mahaprabhu throughout the world, following Srila Gurudev's orders. And today we'll hear from them how their life started. I think Prabhuji is from United States, and they had some connection with Fiji also. They had some property there. I don't know. So they're going to tell us everything today, open their heart out, how their life moved and how they met Mahabhagavats, how was their experience, how they are blessed, and how they feel the presence of Gurudev in their life, and how Gurudev is driving force behind their entire life and taking them where he's taking them, and how it is so much fun to be in Chhatra Chaya, in the shelter of Srila Gurudev in his lotus feet. So I request now Prabhuji and Didi to speak their heart out. If we have enough time, there is no shortage of time on this program, Prabhuji. You can speak as long as you want. And you can stop when you want.
Stopping time.
Yeah, and you can, if you want, feel like doing some kirtan in between. If you're inspired, you can. You're most welcome to do all those things.
Okay, thank you. Gurave Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Kadale Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tadbhaktaya Namo Namaha Ajnana Samirandhasya Jnana Shalakaya Chakshurannilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namah Om Vishnupadaya Radhikaya Priyatmane Sriman Bhaktivedanta Narayana Namine Namah Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nityanamine Mancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Eva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasani Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukham Karoti Vachalam Pangum Tankayate Giri Yakrpatamaham Vande Shri Gurun Dinapadi. So thank you very much, Ajay Prabhu, for arranging this opportunity for so many devotees throughout the entire year to be able to remember and share their experiences with Srila Gurudev, Narayana Swami Maharaj, but also their journeys on the path of bhakti, their association with so many Vaishnavas, and what has impelled them to move forward on the path of bhakti. We really appreciate that you're giving us this opportunity because this is our favorite subject. It is what we like to discuss. What we
Only
like
1
to
minute. I think it will be better if you put that mic on.
Okay.
Because now you don't need to listen. You can just keep speaking. Yeah, it will be clear voice.
Turn the volume down here so that
Yes.
it doesn't feedback.
If I need to talk to you, I'll raise my hand then.
Okay.
Okay.
The mic is right there. 1 second.
Yes, yes.
Was it hard to hear?
Sorry?
It was hard to hear.
Yeah, the voice keeps cracking.
Is this better?
Yes, this is better. Yes.
Hare Krishna.
Does this sound better?
Yes, much better.
We just can't hear
This is
you.
better.
That's the problem.
Good?
Sudevi, your voice is good. Prabhuji's voice is a little less.
I can't tell.
Okay.
Yeah, you can see my thumbs up.
Yeah, he's got his thumbs up.
Okay.
Sounds a lot better.
Okay.
All right. So, Dandava Pranama Vaishnavas. I was just saying that we really appreciate that Ajay Prabhu. I've known him since 1996, I believe. We have, sorry. Very young God brothers together. And since that time, we have always maintained a bond of fraternal affection in discipleship to Srila Gurudev. He's hosted us many times at his home, arranged so many programs for us. In fact, it was him and his family that helped to look after us the first year or two that we came to India. We were completely lost and didn't know, and he was taking care of us. So we really appreciate Ajay Prabhu and his family. And whenever we see him, he reminds us of Srila Gurudev. So that's the best thing. So I was just saying that we really appreciate the opportunity that he's given us. Many years ago, Srila Gurudev was, how do you say, the devotees, some told him that there was some good reception for our preaching team. That time it was with Vishaka Didi, myself, Sudevi. And then later on, it was myself and Sudevi and so many different Mridanga players who came through. And Srila Gurudev heard, and he was looking at us with quite a skeptical look. And Sudevi said, Gurudev, we don't know anything. All we do is speak about you. And Gurudev said, oh, that's why. And so Gurudev was very pleased with that idea that we just speak about him, what we've heard from him, the interactions with him, the sweetness of him, his beautiful blue eyes, and how he charmed and attracted the hearts of everyone. And so because he expressed pleasure in that, that is our pleasure as well, to somehow endeavor to please Srila Gurudev. And by speaking about him, then automatically we speak about those things that are dear to him. So that is his Gurudev, our Srila Prabhupada, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada, all of our Guru Varga, Nitai, Gauranga, Radha, Krishna. So it comes automatically. So when you were giving the introduction, of course, it's a very interesting thing because we're telling about us being born and raised in families of devotees. And being born and raised in families of devotees, this is a great opportunity. But the great opportunity is just that. It's an opportunity. What someone does with the opportunity, that's something else. Very fortunately for us, Srila Gurudev came and rescued us from our own tendency toward mental concoction. After so long, we were feeling, or at least I was feeling, having been born and grown up in the temple, in the society of devotees, that everything was kind of easy and even cheap. Because we were born into it, we didn't have to follow the rules that everyone else had to follow. Srila Gurudev never gave one little bit of preference to us because of our birth, which I really appreciated because, well, Shastra makes that very clear. But there was a certain point in time when our Krishna consciousness was going to the temple, especially on Sundays, going for the evening program, then sitting there for a 20-minute class, which we couldn't barely tolerate because we only wanted to satisfy our tongues and hang out with our friends. So we would kind of go to the temple for the kirtan and then wait for the prasadam, and that was our spiritual life. And of course, that is not the teachings of Srila Prabhupada, that is not the teachings of Krishna consciousness, but that was our comfortable medium. And when our Gurudev came into our life, he revolutionized everything. When I first met him in 1996, this is before he went to the West, my father had suggested very strongly that I should go and...
He bribed him.
He bribed me. I told him that I wanted to go to India. It was the first time since being in Vrindavan Gurukul. I was here when I was young for 2 years, from the ages of 9 and 10. I was in Vrindavan Gurukul. And then after 10 years, I was receiving the opportunity to come again, except I didn't have enough money. So I asked my father for some money. I asked him for $200. Okay. And he said to me, on the condition that when you go there, that you go and see Srila Bhakti Pramod Puri Goswami Maharaj, offer your pranam to him and hear from him. And Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayana Maharaj, offer your pranam to him and hear from him. And I was like, sure, yeah, I can do that. And so he gave me $300 to seal the deal. And we came to India. I was definitely experiencing Vrindavan, or so I thought. I was doing a lot of shopping in Loy Bazaar, but this was not proper Vrindavan. And then I became sick in Mayapur. And then somehow, even though I forgot my promise, one boy out of the blue offered to bring us to see these two great personalities. And when we first went to see Srila Gurudev there in Navadvip Dham, Gurudev asked, why have you come? And we said, oh, we just want to, see you. I told him that my father told me to come and offer pranam to the Vaishnava and to hear from him. And he wasn't too impressed with that. It was kind of like, oh, someone else has made you do it. You didn't really want to do it on your own. And then he asked, do you have any questions? And I said, yes. Why are they telling us we shouldn't come and see you? He said, oh, because when the devotees come and see me and when they hear the Harikatha that I'm speaking, they become so attracted to it that they don't want to leave. And I thought, wow, that's such a beautiful, practical, simple answer, which I wasn't used to. I was used to big philosophical purports. He said it just like that. And he said, so some are a little bit sore or sour that some want to stay with me. And I thought, how refreshing, how sweet, how nice. And there was something I didn't expect. Srila Gurudev then asked the question back. What is the reason for Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu's appearance in this world? Now, growing up in Gurukul, being a devotee my whole life, learning Brahma Samhita and hearing so much Srimad Bhagavatam every day and Bhagavad Gita and Chaitanya Charitamrita, at that moment, I was kind of like a deer in headlights. I was stunned. I didn't really know. And Gurudev was going down the line. There were 3 Gurukul girls and myself and this other boy. And each one was giving their reasons for Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's appearance in this world. And each time Srila Gurudev was adding, well, asking something more, and each person, each one of us was empty. Harinam Sankirtan, to give Krishna Prem, to give Krishna Prem and Harinam Sankirtan, to give Harinam Sankirtan and Krishna Prem. And then he came to this last boy, Krishna Das, who was only a devotee for 2 years. And he had been associating with Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj. So he came to this last boy, and this last boy said, to taste the moods of Srimati Radharani. And Gurudev said, yes. And then he looked straight at me. And you have to have received that look to understand that look. That one that pierces right through you, deep into the core of your heart, cracks through every layer and just completely floors you. Srila Gurudev said, if you do not know all of these truths, how can you preach? That moment, all of the shloks I thought I knew, all of the tattva and siddhanta I thought I knew, everything that I thought I was so brilliant about, I completely felt like a small pea or a peanut on the floor, like insignificant. In that moment, I felt within my heart, I can learn from this person. He can teach me, and I'm willing to learn from him. Because previously, I had developed the extreme ego due to witnessing so many difficulties that I don't know who to trust. I don't know where to turn to. I don't know who to trust. This one is saying this one is a pure devotee. This one's saying this one's a pure devotee. This one is falling. This one's falling. Who do I trust? And the moment I met Gurudev and he gave that question and that answer, I felt for the first time in many, many years, like I could finally breathe. I wasn't just anymore in that shell of searching or uncertainty or mistrust. I felt like, here's someone I can learn from. And he inspired that mood in my heart at that very moment. And within that same year, Srila Gurudev came to America for the first time, 1996, in June, wasn't it?
Well, Los Angeles, June, I think a little earlier in Europe.
Yes, he went in May to Europe and then in June to the US. So after falling, then he went to New York, then I think Houston, then Los Angeles, where he met Sudevi.
Oh, is that my cue? I'm supposed to? Okay. I don't know where to begin. I was thinking because I was remembering just after the time when our Srila Gurudev entered Nitya Leela, although he's always been Nitya Leela, but he left our manifest vision. We had the first Badger Festival, and everyone there decided that they wanted to speak Srimad Bhagavatam, and they were speaking all of these really big, lofty tattvas. And I remember one disciple of Srila Prabhupada, Mahaprabhu, he stood up and he said, you know, I'm not here to hear all of this knowledge and everything you know in your brain or what you memorized. He said, I came here to feel. I want to feel. I want to weep in separation from my Gurudev, from Gurudev. This is what I've come here for. And so I very much appreciated that, because sometimes different devotees say, oh, we shouldn't speak about ourselves and our relationship with Gurudev because it's only about me. But then I'm thinking, how can I convey to anyone how my life has been so transformed and changed and beautified and become so extraordinary if I don't talk about how that happened and why and who did that? And if I can't share that, then the inspiration will only be something of the mind, what I've heard, what I philosophize, what I've tried to understand, but without putting my heart there, without being able to speak about my own relationship with our Gurudev and our Guru Varg, then it's like the inspiration is closed in. And why would anyone want to hear anything? I have to tell who my person is. What is my connection? That's the one actual thing that really binds us all. So I really appreciate that you asked this, you know, what was your relationship? How did you meet Gurudev? What did he speak to you that really touched your heart? I find that that is so important. And when he read that, your email, that this is what we would speak on, I felt inspired by that. And I remembered Mahaprabhu saying, I just want to feel.
When he said that, you could hear the whole room gasp in approval. Yes, yes. And from there, the entire festival shifted to a festival of remembrance and separation from Gurudev. And it was just tears the entire time.
It changed everything because everyone realized, oh, we're not here to show all of our gyan, all of our knowledge that we have or that we've read, or we're not here. We're here to speak about our heart. That heart manifested in front of us as Sri Gurudev. He moved and walked and talked and even smiled and joked with us. Let's talk about that. And then it brought everyone together and we were weeping in a beautiful festival. So this is reminding me of that, how that mood came from everyone's heart thereafter. So I'll start with my cookies from Srila Prabhupada.
Cookie story.
Because you started with that, and I thought that, yes, it is extraordinary. That is the most extraordinary moments of my childhood. And the funny thing is our parents never let us forget it. That's why we might not remember so many things from our childhood, but we remember those cookies, not just because they were good, but because it was very much imposed upon us that this is an important moment and don't you forget it. So Srila Prabhupada, Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada, his headquarters was in the Los Angeles temple. And so we got to see him a lot, even though we were very young, from the age of not having any teeth to about 5 years old. On and off, we got to see him quite often. And we got cookies, we would give him flowers.
Those cookies were amazing. Very, very tasty, very flavorful.
We can remember them. Actually, one devotee in England, she ended up, when we went to England some years ago, she made Prabhupada cookies. She said, we used to make these cookies for Srila Prabhupada to distribute, and we knew your Gurukuli, so she made those cookies. Do you remember?
Yes, that was Manjuali. Right?
Yes. So, what was I saying? So the cookie story that impressed the most on me was all the children were going up to Srila Prabhupada, and there was kirtan going on, and he was handing out. And the children would take the cookies and then leave. So my father told me, you should offer your obeisance to Srila Prabhupada. First, he said it to my sister, and she's older than me, so she had more shyness. She said, no, I can't. And I said, oh, I can do it. So I walked up, and Srila Prabhupada was there. He handed the cookie. And before I took it, I offered my pranam. So I went down, offered obeisance. I got up, ready to take the cookie. And he put the cookie down. And I was like, oh no, my dad did this. And Srila Prabhupada looked, and he got the biggest cookie on the plate, a beautiful smile on his face. And he handed me the biggest cookie. Oh, I was so happy. But this cookie remains permanently impressed in my mind and in my heart, because that was like everything. When I was naughty, and I was a very naughty little girl, so when I would do something bad, my dad or my mom would say, you know better. I had the name Saraswati. They'd say, Saraswati, you know better. You got the big cookie from Prabhupada. How could you behave like this? Oh, yes, I got the big cookie. Oh, I'm so naughty. Like this. So we understood that this was a very, very pivotal moment in our lives, that connection with the Mahabhagavat. Even though we were too young to understand who he was, we knew he was special. We knew that he was everything to the devotees and to us. Our parents would wake us up and say his name. When they would tell us to go to sleep, the last thing they would say is Jai
Jai
Srila
Srila
Prabhupada.
Prabhupada.
He is their blood, our blood. So that was everything for us. But these moments were impressed upon us. Fast forward many years, growing up in an environment where I wasn't being nourished. The books were there, but at large, I didn't find any kind of a mentor in the community, or maybe I didn't allow one. I didn't trust anyone. I know that Bhakti Swarup Damodar Maharaj, I liked him very much, but he was so big and grand in a way. So I didn't have much connection with many Vaishnavas. We once saw Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj, well, actually many times, and we didn't go and have his association because he was so like a lion. He was roaring continuously like a lion, and we were kind of like, you know, mice running away. Like that's very intense. So at least for myself, I missed out on that association. But I found myself really trying to become sincere and praying. I wanted to be a devotee. I remember finally reading Srila Prabhupada's books and realizing, yes, I want to be a devotee. Never mind, I was born to believe a certain thing. That's on another level. But what do I really want with my life? And I read the Science of Self-Realization. And reading that, I was like, yes, this is for me. I want to be a devotee. I want this. So I started trying to go to lectures and to classes, but I would find in many ways a lot of hypocrisy surrounding me. So I became very much distant and on my own. So we had a group of guru colleagues, and we would get together and read Srimad Bhagavatam, and it would end up just being
jokes and laughing.
They would tell jokes like, oh, how is Hiranyaksha killed?
He was bored to death.
So this is what would happen during our Bhagavatam classes. Then there would be all of these jokes. So I thought, okay, I'm not being helped here. So I started to read Srimad Bhagavatam on my own. And on my own, I realized something extraordinary. Within Srimad Bhagavatam, it's clear to me now that Krishna only spent a very short time in Vrindavan, but he spent 80, 90 years in Dwarka. So it's obvious Krishna wants to be in Dwarka, not Vrindavan. So my goal is to become a queen in Dwarka. I wanted to become 16,109. That was my goal. And I started crying and praying and chanting and begging Krishna. I used to pray to Mirabai. Oh, she didn't have this kind of guru-disciple relationship. Krishna came and saved her so many times. I'm going to be like Mira. I don't need a guru.
I had never seen anything like it. I was like, okay, so that bedroom was her bhajan kutir. And if someone made a phone call, I would go and open the door a crack, and it would just be full of incense smoke and candles everywhere. And Amar Chitrakatha, you know, the comic book with Mira and Krishna, and she'd be sitting there chanting and weeping. And I was like, she's busy. I had no idea what she was doing, but she was praying to be someone else's husband, I guess. I mean, wife, the wife of Krishna, yeah.
So I was doing this whole thing on my own, trying to figure out what is the goal of bhakti? What is the purpose of my life? I grew up in a temple called New Dwarka, and the deities were renamed Rukmini Dwarkadish. Srila Prabhupada installed them as Radha Govinda, Radha Krishna, but they called them Rukmini Dwarkadish. So I thought, okay, this is my Ishtadev, and this is my life, and I want to this is my goal in bhakti. So I started really calling out and praying. And then I met a disciple of our Gurudev, and she started trying to talk to me about her guru, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayana Gosvami Maharaj. And I thought, oh, I don't want to hear about your guru. I'll hear about Krishna, I'll hear about bhakti, but not your. So she would trick me by saying, oh, once my Gurudev said And then she would tell me beautiful leelas. Anyway, to make a long story short, she sent me a book at one point, Going Beyond Vaikuntha. And I read this book and I thought, oh my God, this personality has taught me something. Before then, it was only Srila Prabhupada's books, nothing else. But I read this and I felt very deeply that this person has helped me. And I found out that he was coming to America in just a couple of weeks. So I was very excited and I wanted to see him. I went to the airport, and upon having that first darshan of Gurudev, all I can say is my life changed in that moment. It was like breathing to me. I knew that he was my Gurudev and that I was his, that everything else in this world no longer mattered. It was everything was him. And at that time, Kishori Mahaprabhu was working in another state. So he was in Washington and I was in California. My family was also gone. No one was around to stop me. So I ran away and I joined, let's say, the Gaudiya Mats, the Hare Krishnas.
She ran away and joined the Hare.
I ran away and joined the Hare Krishnas, even though I was living at the temple. I ran away and I was so astonished by hearing Srila Gurudev. And the first things he began to tell was his relationship with our Srila Prabhupada. And it touched me to the core. I had never heard anyone speak about our Srila Prabhupada in that kind of a bosom-like friend. How they would cook together, how they would do kirtan together, how they would have open-hearted dealings together. And Gurudev, how he would laugh about how Srila Prabhupada was so addicted to Mathura Pera. So these kinds of things were melting my heart. And I thought, he knows my Prabhupada. And then I realized, no, he's not my Prabhupada. He's his Prabhupada. Our Gurudev knew him better than any of us. Then he began to delineate the path of bhakti. Who is Caitanya Mahaprabhu? Who is our lineage? Who is Srila Rupa Goswami? Why is he Sri Chaitanya Manovishtam? How did he establish what Mahaprabhu came to give? What is it that he came to give? And Gurudev started refining and bringing that to Srila Prabhupada. That's what he has come to give. That very same thing, Gauravani Prachar. And I was astonished. So very quickly after, Srila Gurudev bestowed Harinam and Diksha on me. When we were in California, maybe 2 weeks after I had met him. Actually, he told me, you should come to me in the morning at 7 and don't eat anything.
She had already been chanting a minimum of 23 rounds of Hare Krishna Mahamantra on her Japamala and another 10 rounds of Jagannatha Swami Nayana Patagami Bhavatume.
I was making everything up.
But she was doing that every day for years with intention. So it's not like she wasn't preparing herself. She just didn't know exactly what she was preparing herself for. But Srila Gurudev heard that prayer and came.
So he said, come to my room in the morning and don't eat anything. I was so excited. I went to my friends and I said, I'm going to have breakfast with Narayan Maharaj tomorrow morning. They're like, what? Narayan Maharaj doesn't just have breakfast with anybody, especially young ladies. What are you talking about? I said, no. He told me to come early in the morning, 7 o'clock, and not to eat anything. What else is it going to be? Breakfast. They said, no. He's going to give you initiation. And I thought, oh. So I ran back to Srila Gurudev and I said, Gurudev, I can't accept initiation from you. And he said, why not? And I said, Gurudev, I'm newly married and I'm not following all the principles of bhakti. I'm not following properly. And Gurudev became somewhat like he tried to be serious. He said, oh, I am aware these things are going on. And then he said, but how will you give it up without a higher taste and without help. Why would you want to? And he said, anyhow, if you have given up these lesser things, then you should be giving initiation, not accepting. And then he smiled and he said, anyhow, initiation first happens when Gurudev first glances at his disciple. Everything else is just a formality. And I said, okay, I'll see you in the morning. And then I went to Srila Gurudev's room, and the most astonishing thing happened to me. As he was giving me my mantras, he stopped and he said, oh, this relationship with Krishna, husband and wife. Yes. He said, for you, it will never be. For you, it will never be. He said, your beloved is Brajendra Nandan Shama Sundar Krishna in Vrindavan, and your Swaminiji is Srimati Radhika. And then he continued giving me my mantras. And I was sitting there thinking, first, how did he know? Even my husband didn't know that I was praying to be Krishna's wife, Krishna's queen. But I thought, if he knew this was in my heart, then he knows who I really am. What is my relationship with Krishna, with Srimati Radhika? What is my seva? What am I meant to do? How am I supposed to follow this sadhana to achieve my sadhya, my goal? He gave everything then. Not that he gave me Siddha Pranali, anything like this. He just stopped me from concocting, from being sahajya, from making up all kinds of things. Oh, I want to love Krishna for my enjoyment. I don't want to be a maidservant. No, I want to be a queen. I want to have a palace. I want to have Krishna as my own. And so Gurudev in one quick moment took all of this away. And he also took the guessing away. This is your goal. Brajendra Nandan Shama Sundar, your Swaminiji is Srimati Radhika. Now, here is your Nam. Here is all of my teachings. And run for the path of bhakti. Run toward Braja Vrindavan. This was the most astonishing thing. I felt that my entire 23 years I met Gurudev just after my 23rd birthday. So up until then, I felt that everything that I had been learning, every bit of association, everything was bringing me to this point. I still had not accepted Guru in my life, but all of going to Arti, reading Srila Prabhupada's books, chanting Harinam, associating with Vaishnavas. It was like I was in a shadow world doing everything I was supposed to. And the moment I met Gurudev, the light switch went on. And now I could clearly see how all of that brought me to this point to put me on my path toward my eternal beloved. So it was extraordinary for me actually to come in contact with Srila Gurudev like this. I feel that getting those cookies from Srila Prabhupada were like putting some kind of a hidden mood in my heart, like an impression. The next time you meet someone like me, it will awaken in your heart. You will understand that sweetness. The moment you have his darshan, it will awaken that prasad in your heart. And so when I saw Gurudev for the first time, I really believed that it was Srila Prabhupada's mercy, because he was my everything. And now I'm standing in front of this personality who I couldn't even conceive of seeing him different than Srila Prabhupada. I felt that he was my heart. He was Paramatma stepping outside of my heart, and everything that Krishna wanted me to know, how I could reach him, how I could run toward the path of bhakti, toward Braj, toward his Swamini, Srimati Radhika Thakurani. Krishna was telling me through the mouth of our Gurudev. And so it was a revolution. It was a revolution. And then so quickly after, Gurudev Actually, we were in Fiji. I should let you speak a little bit. I'm going on too much.
I want to keep hearing. Because Sudevi met Gurudev first.
No, you met him first.
Okay, I met him first, but she met him first in the mood of a disciple. Gurudev claimed her first, and she was willing to give up everything for him, including me. In fact, when she was preparing herself to receive initiation, I was very unsure of that. We were already married, but I was working in Seattle at the time, so a few states north, and she was calling me like every hour.
Actually, the devotees told me, Gurudev, he will ask if your husband has given his consent to be initiated. He didn't want to create problems between husband and wife and all of this, especially his first tour in America. He didn't want to split up families afterwards. Okay.
So I have a difficult time understanding spontaneity. I like things to be
He doesn't like change.
fixed. I don't like change. And so my understanding was, okay, well, you have to be chanting a minimum of 16 rounds a day for 6 months, I think it was at the time, or a year, before you get, but aspiring for a particular guru, which she had
And
not
learn
been
a
doing.
certain amount of shlokas.
Learn a certain amount of shlokas and things like that. So my mood was, I liked Gurudev. I had met him previously, and I thought it's a great idea, but not so quickly. I think you should give it some time. And Sudevi just kept saying, I don't know how much time I have left. What if I die tomorrow? Then I'll regret it forever. She was really like, I could feel, and she was writing letters to me too. Somehow the letters were moving very quickly. She still kept all of them. And I was responding back, like, who are you? What is going on? But finally, she was trying to get my blessings, my permission, because Gurudev didn't want to disrupt anything within the family relationship. And finally, it was like, she's like, I just need your blessing. I just need your blessing. And I was working at the time, and I just had to get off the phone and go back to work.
It was the night before my initiation.
And I just said to her on the phone, I just said, pretend to sneeze. And she said, what? I said, pretend to sneeze. And she said, achoo. And I said, bless you. And she said, thanks. Boom, hung the phone up and ran into initiation from Gurudev. But her mood was really, if she needed to give up her family, if she needed to give up her husband, if she needed to give up her society, whatever it was, Gurudev had attracted her heart. And then I was thinking, what am I supposed to do? Now she's Gurudev's disciple, and what's going to happen to me? So I started really meditating on Gurudev and trying to think of, okay, can this person become my guru? Interestingly enough, as he made his way up the coast toward Canada, he actually stopped in the place, in our very house where I was working. And he stayed there overnight. So that afternoon, he gave a class, and the next morning, he gave a class. And I remember when he came, I was watching him, because between the time that he gave her initiation and the time that he came to see me, he came for me. I think he came for me. The time that he came to claim me in Seattle, every night I was having dreams of him. And they were like, he would get off a train and I would see him, and we were best friends. And we hadn't seen each other in so long. And he got this big smile on his face, and I got this big smile on my face, and we would run toward each other and embrace each other and spin in circles every single night for like 3 weeks. And I was like, wow, this is quite interesting. And then he comes to our house, which was a t-shirt factory. We had 15 people living in this small house, and every day we would go out and sell t-shirts in the tourist locations of Seattle. And we were even manufacturing the t-shirts in that location. So Gurudev came and stayed in that place. And that was quite impressive to me, that here is a big, important, prominent, sannyasi, elderly, senior, guru, and he's staying in such a meager, simple situation. And I remember feeling, wow, he's not attached to any of these big, grandiose things. I mean, when we were little, we were deciding to choose gurus based on the, whether they ate chocolate or how expensive their curtains were, or if they had golden bathroom taps. And in this case, he was so simple and so gentle and so personable, so accessible. And it was impressive, to say the least. Impressive. He made a great impression. So I remember sitting there as Srila Gurudev was speaking, and he was having Shamrani Didi read from Srila Prabhupada's books. It was Nectar of Instruction. I had just read that book like 3 times in a row. And still, somehow I had only skimmed the surface, although I thought I was very deep. And as Srila Gurudev was hearing it, then he would comment, he would start speaking. And there was one word that came up, I think it was the word when. And Srila Gurudev at that time, he said, here, it does not mean this, it means this. And I remember watching him thinking, what am I supposed to get from this person? Guru Mukha Padmabhakya, from what is emanating from his lotus mouth, what does it all mean anyway? And then he said, it means this, it doesn't mean this. And suddenly it was like a hurricane hit me of, oh my God. On my own, I was just skimming the surface. He's actually going deep and revealing so many essential truths that he is making make sense. He is translating this literature to me in a way I can actually understand something. And it was a complete revolution also for me. He also had me leading kirtan immediately. So the room was so packed. It was a small room with 100 devotees in it, and my harmonium was his book stand, and it was like tight. So we were sitting quite close to each other, and I sang Gauranga Balite Habe, which I had learned from hearing the cassettes of him singing it. My service in the Los Angeles ISKCON temple was cutting the afternoon fruit offering for the deities there. And for some reason, I had 100 different cassettes to listen to, but for some reason I thought, this is real kirtan, and one day I want to go to India and learn from him how to lead kirtan or how to sing kirtan. And so I would only listen to him every day. And then we had the opportunity to be with him. And so I was playing the harmonium and singing Gauranga Balite Habe. And then he recognized that I knew how to follow whatever kirtan progression he had. And so he was kind of like already doing this, go to the next part, the next part, the next part. And so I followed the best I could. And at the very end, once it was finished, he asked me, do you know the difference between kirtan and sangeet? And I was like, no, I never heard the word sangeet before. He said, sangeet is technical ability. And he actually sang it. Sa re ga ma pa da ni sa. And then he said, kirtan is transcendental sound vibration, descending from Goloka Vrindavan into your heart. After you receive Harinam, then your kirtan will become potent. And I didn't quite understand what he meant at that time. But for me, that was a big, prominent instruction that just technical ability, harmonium, singing, or anything, this is not really kirtan. Kirtan is when one has received Krishna and then is serving Krishna. It is descending from Goloka Vrindavan into one's heart. After you receive Harinam, then your kirtan will become potent. He didn't say when it will become potent. I'm still waiting for that day, but I have faith that one day, by the mercy of Gurudev, I might actually receive, meaning serve Sri Harinam Prabhu, and then kirtan may become potent. But right from the beginning, he was making everything make sense in such a beautiful and clear way. It's not that Srila Prabhupada did not do so, but us as little children growing up and reading the books or hearing the translations of those books from so many different devotees who might not have been realized in that same way. And I'm saying who might not have been. I don't know who was and who wasn't. We were, I want to use the term, quite arrogant Gurukulis at the time, just because of our lack of trusting. So we were standoffish toward everyone, even those who may have been pure devotees. And so Krishna made another arrangement for us somehow. Very easily, we could have been derailed into any extreme mundane situation, but by Gurudev's mercy and grace, we feel that he came and collected us, picked us like flowers, She was his only disciple in 1996 that he made in Los Angeles at that time. And when he met us in Seattle, he also was asking, and I went to see him. I actually asked, can I have a private meeting with Srila Narayana at the time, is what I called him. And they actually gave me a private meeting with him. And I was completely fearless at that time. I was a little bit unimpressed that he didn't remember me from Navadvip, but anyhow, I'm like, remember I saw you in Navadvip, just, at the time of Gurudeva. Little did I know that they had 10 or 20,000 pilgrims coming through, but I wanted to feel important. And he was like, oh, I don't remember. And then when he discovered that Sudevi was my wife, he said, oh, you should become strong like your wife. You should become strong like her. And I told him I'm very weak. I'm not sincere. And he said, but you should come in process. You should come in process. You should receive initiation. To come in process, this is the first step in spiritual life. And he said, from any bona fide spiritual master. And he did not name himself. He named a few different other persons and just left it like that. And so I said, no, I want to take from you, but I'm just not ready yet. I'm not sincere. And he said, okay. And I said, he said Kartik time or something. I said, yes, maybe like that. So even by that time, I had so much attraction to him, but I was so dull. I was so brick-like. My heart was like stone, still quite hard, but somehow Gurudev has a way of breaking in there, getting in. You open even just a little bit, he has a way of making his way in there. He is definitely a heart thief. So first he stole her heart, and then I was like, well, I just kind of need to follow along. So for her, it was her life and soul, her own breath manifested in front of her own pran manifested in front of her. And for me, it was kind of, I was getting caught up in this wave, although I had so much attraction to him. And he was always, are we still there? Yes. He was very personable, very sweet, very kind and accessible. And it really opened my heart, and I'm sure hers and everyone else's, that because we were used to, the awe and reverence, that be careful, don't touch their feet. If you touch their feet, you will give them your karma and they might become sick. And it was like, when the 11 Vyasa sons were put in Los Angeles temple, and it was like the greatest awe and reverence. When we met Gurudev, he somehow took a role that was so, let's say, like small, like one of us, like a friend, a very sweet, affectionate friend. And I saw him, also you, embracing disciples of Prabhupada. Can you tell about that?
Yeah, it was one of the most amazing things when Srila Gurudev came off the plane in 1996. He came out and I saw that he was just embracing different devotees like Pran Kishori Prabhu, Urukram Prabhu, just embracing the Vaishnavas. And then Champaklata Didi, she was having a garland in her hand and she was laughing and crying at the same time. And Gurudev was hitting her like this, blessing her on her head. And the devotees were just overwhelmed. But when he was saying that Gurudev was almost like becoming so small, I remember one time here in Vrindavan at Gopinath Bhavan, we were sitting in his darshan room and there were all kinds of Vaishnavas there just looking at Gurudev. He was on this very nice raised bed and he was sitting there. He had a turban on and he was looking at everyone and we were all just watching him. He's so beautiful. Every movement, every lifting of his eyebrow, every time he would move his eyes, we were just fascinated. And Bhagavat Maharaj was there. He had traveled to China and different places, and he brought like all of these different gifts from different Vaishnavas to offer to Gurudev. And Gurudev looked like a king receiving gifts from all other provinces or something, So Bhagavat Maharaj is giving him gifts and Gurudev is looking at them and then he's looking at us and we're like, wow. And he could see that we had so much awe and reverence. We were having this Aishwarya mood toward him. Like a king, you know, oh, he's like untouchable. He's so like big and we're so small. And then Bhagavat Maharaj brought a mirror. And this mirror was one of those mirrors that twists. So on one side was magnified and on the other is small. So Bhagavat Maharaj hands it to Gurudev and he looks and it's the magnified side. And he goes, oh, so big. And everyone started laughing. Bhagavat Maharaj also laughed and he turned and he said, oh, Gurudev, look. See? And then Gurudev goes, oh, that's better. And then everyone was just giggling. Oh, look at Gurudev didn't know. Such a simple thing Gurudev didn't even know. And then when Gurudev saw all of us giggling and kind of laughing,
Relaxed.
yeah, we became relaxed and we no longer were going, oh, we were like, oh. Then Gurudev started saying, how are you? And he started talking to each one of the Vaishnavas. And I was sitting a little close. So I was close to Bhagavat Maharaj. And Bhagavat Maharaj said to Madhav Maharaj, he said, oh, that was so cute. You know, Gurudev didn't know, you know, about the magnifying. And Madhav Maharaj said, he was just doing that for all of you. He has the same kind of mirror in his bathroom. And I thought, oh, how sweet is that? It's even more sweet because generally we don't want to be seen as wrong. Oh, I knew that. I was just joking. Something like that. But Gurudev, who knew? He knew that there was a magnifying and that you turn it. He has one of those. But yet he let himself look like he didn't understand it. Just so that that high and mighty mood that we were seeing him in, it came down. And we were with our hearts open thinking, oh, we have to help him. He doesn't know this simple thing. And then immediately when he saw our hearts began to open, he immediately started, as he said, if there's even a crack open, Gurudev would enter. So he just started speaking to everyone and melting our hearts. I saw him do this so many times. And I just was reminded of that when he said that he became like so small. When he did that, it was so beautiful for me that he wanted us to be able to come to him, to relate to him. I remember one time when we were in the Fiji Islands, Gurudev was just
Tweet.
We were
Tell them really quick. We were reading Caitanya Bhagavat. We've been studying it every day, and there it says if you just say that the sound dweep, that all your material miseries will disappear. So
we all just say dweep all the time.
But we were in Fiji Dweep, so she said Fiji Islands, and it's the Dweep there. Ramanik Dweep.
So when we were there, Srila Gurudev, he was about to leave. And he was going to go to Australia or any other place. And we were just feeling so completely overwhelmed with separation. And everything that we wanted to tell Gurudev, we couldn't, just because words don't suffice. Where the heart is prominent, words aren't enough. So without each other knowing, we both wrote letters to Gurudev. And we gave them to Brajanath Prabhu, or I think Naveen Krishna.
We were just
Prabhu.
staying 2 houses away from Gurudev.
Yeah, we were right next door. But we gave letters to be given to Gurudev. And very quickly we got a phone call. Oh, Gurudev wants to see you both immediately. So we're like, oh, what happened? We went running to Srila Gurudev's room. We went inside and Gurudev had the letters. He said, why have you done this? Why have you written letters? And I immediately started crying. And I'm like, because I can't tell you what my heart needs to say. And Kishori Prabhu said the same. And Gurudev said, don't do this. Don't keep your heart so far from me. Because really, even if we're shedding tears in front of Gurudev, he knows our heart. We don't need to actually say words to him. What is in our heart, what we're meditating on, what we're praying, what we're crying about, Gurudev already knows. So sitting in front of him and just offering our pranam, Gurudev knows everything. But he said, don't keep your heart far from me. Don't keep your heart hidden. And then he said, read your letters to me. And I was just crying. And then he said, okay, that Kishori Mahaprabhu should read my letter and I should read his. And so we both had to read each other's letters to Gurudev. But it was just this beautiful mood about how he didn't want us to keep ourselves very distant from him, whether it was in a mood of awe and reverence, Aishwarya mood, or even this, I can't speak my heart to you. No, like an open book. If I can't even bring out the words, it doesn't matter. Gurudev knows my heart. He knows what is going on. Should I want to say something?
No, I was just remembering the telephone.
Telephone.
Yeah, remember when we were sitting on the couch all the way on the other side and Gurudev was on the telephone? Can you tell us?
So this is also in the Fiji Islands. Once
We had many interactions with Srila Gurudev when he would come to Fiji because we were living there at the time. And the devotees told us, he came here for you, and they would push us in his room.
they would just put us in his room and we wouldn't know what to say, and Gurudev would just be waiting, come sit down.
Well, one time Gurudev came out of his room and was like, where is everyone? He said, I'm lonely.
Because we were getting ready for a program and we were filling the vans with different things, and we had to cook, we had to do so many things, and Gurudev wanted to give Harikatha, but we also had to prepare for the program, and we're like, Gurudev, and he's like, I'm lonely. He wanted to tell us about Krishna, and we're like, but Gurudev, we have to do this seva. Anyway, so he was in this house, and Kanti Punja's house, and Kishori Mahaprabhu and I were sitting on this couch just talking, and Gurudev came out to take a phone call. This is before cell phones. So he had to come out of his room and take a phone call. And he sat down on this stool and he was just on the phone, and we were just sitting on the couch watching him like, oh, my Gurudev, he talks on the phone. Wow. Everything he did was so amazing. So he was just talking on the phone and he was looking at us and kind of smiling, and we're like, wow, Gurudev. And then he got off the phone and he looked at me and he said, oh, you should also call me from time to time. And I was like, okay. And so then he just took his fist like this and he put his fist to his ear and he looked at me and he said, hello, my darling daughter. And I was just looking at him. And Kishori Mahaprabhu said, he's playing phone, pick up the phone. And I said, so I put my fist to my ear and I said, hey, Gurudev, how are you? And he looked at me and said, I am fine. And I said, so what are you doing? And he looked at me, he said, I'm talking to you. And then he slammed his fake phone down, so I slammed mine down. And he said, you should be very careful, very careful. And so we got up at that moment. We realized something became serious. So we got up and we came toward Gurudev, and he was watching me and he said, Krishna, he will try to make you the queen in Dwarka. And I laughed. I said, oh, Gurudev, I'm not worried. I'm not afraid of Krishna. Gurudev opened his eyes. No, you're not? And I said, no. He said, why not? And I said, because I know you will protect me. And then he just looked and said, yes.
Wow.
Yes. And that brought also what happened before I was initiated, that he stepped in and protected me from my own material aspiration to enjoy Krishna. One other thing I wanted to tell, because I'll give you another few minutes, but I wanted to tell this when we were already married before we came to Srila Gurudev, but in 1996, Gurudev performed our wedding ceremony in Seva Kunja in Vrindavan in his Rup Sanatan Gaudiya Ma upstairs, where he has the Seva Kunj painting. Ajay Prabhu, were you there?
We can't hear you. 1 second. It's going to sound like feedback. Hello? Radhe Radhe?
Yes, can you hear? It's okay, Prabhuji, carry on.
Oh, we can't hear it.
It's okay. It's
Sorry.
okay.
Never mind. I'll just continue.
Yeah,
Anyway,
continue.
I'll just continue.
Okay, I have to turn off the volume.
Put a thumbs up. Should I just continue?
Yeah, continue. Continue.
Yeah, I don't see any
Okay.
volume
So,
switch.
Srila Gurudev,
He
he did
was
our
there.
ceremony. He was there.
Yeah,
So Srila Gurudev, he actually, there was so much chaos surrounding this because no sannyasi in the history of Gaudiya Vedanta Samiti, I don't even know, maybe Gaudiya Mat, they had never done a wedding ceremony. Traditionally, no sannyasi does a wedding ceremony.
our Srila Prabhupada also said that this is forbidden for sannyasis, but in order to preach the mission of Krishna consciousness, he had to make some adjustments and do those marriages. So it had not been done before in Gaudiya Vedanta Samiti.
And it was a big problem. Everybody was going crazy. Everybody was having, one day it was on, one day it was off. And actually, it was Srila Gurudev who said, have you had your Vedic wedding done?
That was when we first arrived.
Yes, and we said no. And he said, I will do it for you. So Gurudev was planning on doing our wedding. And one day I walked in his room and there was a big meeting going on with big people about the wedding. And I went in Gurudev's room and he smiled. He said, oh, where is your dowry? I said, dowry? He said, yes, where's your dowry? And I said, but Gurudev, you're my father. He said, I have to give? I have to give the dowry. I said, yes. And he just said, oh, no. It's so cute. So we had finally, on the last day of party, we had our wedding ceremony. And because it was such a big deal, our fire yagya was a ghee lamp.
One small diya, one wick.
And all the Vaishnavas were sitting there, and Gurudev was sitting there, and Tirtha Maharaj was doing all of the mantras, Shubhananda Prabhu. And Gurudev would stop and tell what the mantras mean. And then finally, we went and we circumambulated Seva Kunja, the beautiful paintings of Gurudev's heart. So we did parikrama there 7 times. And then Gurudev said, he said, in your dictionary, the D word is not there, means
We don't know it.
there will be no divorce. He said, if you want to have any kind of divorce, he said, first you must come to all of those who are present here that witnessed this marriage ceremony that you have bowed in front of. He said, you will have to gain their permission. Then you must go to all of the senior Vaishnavas and ask their permission. Then you must come to Thakurji, to Seva Kunja, and ask Radhika and Krishna that you can get a divorce. And he said, and at very last, if you go to Seva Kunj, you'll go, there upstairs is the Seva Kunj, and then at very last is Gurudev's room. And so he said, at very last, you can come to me, and the answer is no. So all of that, but he was so strong on this that we should be proper. He taught us from the beginning, whether it was our marriage vows, whether it was taking initiation, whatever we were doing, when we were dealing with Vaishnavas, we should be honest, we should be straightforward, and we should follow. We shouldn't take any of these things lightly. Nowadays, it's so easy. People just, oh, I'm not happy anymore. I'm leaving this person. Oh, I made a mistake. Gurudev said no. Even one time, we had a big fight. We were in Canada. We had a huge fight, Kishori Mohan Prabhu and I. And the next morning, or was that Fiji?
I don't
It
remember.
could have been both places. But in one of these...
We had a big one in Canada too, but this one was in Fiji.
So we went to see Gurudev the next morning. And I mean, we were up all night fighting. So we went to see Srila Gurudev, and Gurudev looked at me and he said, you should not yell at him or he will cry. But he knew everything. He knew what we were doing and how I was so angry. And he was teaching us that Guru, we might pretend that Gurudev isn't witnessing everything that is going on. We think, oh, only when I'm chanting my mantras, only when I'm chanting my Harinam. But Guru and Krishna are always present. It's why we can't pull one over on them. They see everything. They know the true intentions of our heart. And Gurudev taught us from the beginning, whether it's our material life, it should be utilized for Krishna's seva, for Gurudev's seva, and at the same time, it should be done honestly, and we should live in that kind of a character. He said, I want even one Western disciple, husband and wife who don't divorce. I want one example. This was in the early 90s. And Kishori Mahaprabhu and I thought, we might never be able to do any seva for Gurudev, but we can do this. Let's be that married couple that try to serve him and not get divorced, not be like that, that we can at least stay married to serve him. And so the reason I brought this up was because I just wanted to show that from those things that most people just consider, oh yeah, we got married or this or that, Gurudev took it very serious. He used to say, if you can leave your husband or your wife, easily you can leave Gurudev, easily you can leave Krishna. So we should have some nishta and be careful with our vows and with our truth in front of Vaishnava.
In 1999, Srila Gurudev, in front of all the devotees at Govardhan, you were probably there, Ajay Prabhu. Of course you were. This was 1999 at Govardhan. Gurudev had us lead Namami Nandanandanam and Radha Kripikataksha Stavaraja. And then he had Vishaka Didi stand up and speak what he spoke in the morning. And after that, he just said, I want you three to make a team and you to travel around the world and preach my mission everywhere. And we were like, that's kind of a tall order. We just had got that place in Fiji. We were starting the farms and we were doing all of these things and really kind of bound in our samsara. And Gurudev's like, I want you three to make a team and travel the world and preach. And we were very surprised by it. And we thought, yeah, Gurudev says this to everyone, you should do this. So, it was kind of an idea, but we didn't think it was something really serious. And as soon as that class was finished, that darshan on the lawn, some devotees came up to us and said, so where are you going first? And we were like, oh no, this is really going to happen. And then we kind of started studying a little bit. So we had our books, we had Rasamrita and everything. And after Kartik was finished, we went to see Srila Gurudev and Sri Keshavji Gauriya in Mathura. And Gurudev said, what are you still doing here? And we said, oh, we're studying so that we can preach. He said, what you know now, go and preach. We're like, but we don't know anything. But he gave that order. And just after that Kartik, Gurudev went to Australia. And so we were also there with in Australia with Gurudev, sorry. And Gurudev came, Sudevi saw him in the house. Whose house was that?
I don't remember.
Raja Kishori's.
I don't remember. I had to go. Do you want me to tell
you?
Yeah. I went to the house that Srila Gurudev was staying at. And as I walked in, Gurudev came out of his room and he said, oh, where are you going after this? And I said, well, to Fiji, Gurudev. We have a 300-acre farm there, so we live there. He said, I don't want you in Fiji. Where is this other Vaishnava? And he said their name. And I said, but they're in England where they live. I don't want them there. I want them with you, and I want you traveling the world and preaching. I want you traveling on my behalf. And he was yelling at me and with his finger like this. And that was very rare. Gurudev didn't he would say, oh, you should try. Sometimes, he would give a general thing, but he was like with his finger, I don't want this. I want you traveling preaching. And so I was horrified. I thought, oh no, we're going to lose everything. We have to give up everything and travel and preach. Oh my gosh. And so I had like a panic. I was up all night crying. I was like, what are we going to do? We're only in our 20s.
We have no money.
We have no money. We had this farm, and within 6 months, we were going to be pulling all of the crops, and we would have had after a couple of years, we would have had close to what, $500,000? We were going to be rich. So I was freaking out. What am I going to do? You know? So all night I was upset. And then the next day, Gurudev was leaving. He was going to another country. So we went to see him off, and you know, my eyes were swollen and my nose was red. I'm still crying. And Gurudev came out and he looked at us and he said, "Oh, you should not worry for money. It will come." And Kishori Mohan Prabhu said,
"But Gurudev, we don't want money. We just want to please you."
And Gurudev said, "Oh, then more money will come like milk from the sky." And in my head, I'm thinking, Gurudev, milk doesn't come from the sky. And then Gurudev just blessed us and got in the car. And I was just like, so I'm crying. And all of a sudden, one Vaishnava, she came and she tapped my shoulder. And I turned around and I'm just crying and crying. And she said, "I was there yesterday in the house and I heard Gurudev order you that you have to leave everything and travel and preach." And I'm like, "Yes." And she said, "I wanted to be the first to give you a donation for your travels." And so I opened it up and I looked inside and it was 2,000 British pounds. And that was like 4,000 at the time.
Yes.
So I opened it and I was shocked, and then I got even more afraid. It's really gonna happen. And so then we just wrote, we looked in the back of an old book and we just saw a few centers, because you know there wasn't email really at the time, there was no social media. So we just looked in the back of books, wrote whoever we could and said, "Do you want us to come to your country?" And every devotee wrote back and said, "Yes, where do we send the money for your tickets?" And since then, we had just for 19 years continuously traveling and trying to inspire on behalf.
So I brought this issue up because a few years later, the devotee who was traveling us decided they could not any longer do that seva. And so Gurudev wanted us to continue. But that devotee, Vishaka Didi, she was doing all of the preaching. We were doing the singing at the time. And Gurudev...
Much easier than preaching.
So Gurudev wanted us to do some preaching. And we were quite scared. We're like, "Can't we travel with any of your other preachers, any sannyasis, and just be their backup?" And Gurudev said, he said, "Why should I cut my preaching in half?" He said, "If you are there and another preaching group is there at the same time, then any location will be missing. Why should I cut my preaching in half?" So he said, "I want this new thing." He said, "Everywhere we go, it's sannyasis and brahmacharis going to the homes of grihastas." He said, and so because of the awe and reverence that is there, there's some disconnect. He said, "So I want this new thing, that a grihasta couple is going to the homes of grihastas. How inspiring will that be? I want this new thing." And we were so afraid. We were thinking, what are we going to do? What do we want? And he said, continue.
Well, that's when he said, because we were like, "Gurudev, we can't do it." I kept saying, "I can't preach. I can't speak, Gurudev. No, no, no." He said, "Okay, if you don't follow my order to travel and preach on my behalf, you will lose your kirtan. But if you follow my order and travel and preach on my behalf, your kirtan will do everything." And then he said, "Go and decide."
And so we were like, "Oh my God, he put us in a pretty difficult situation."
No, Kishori Mohan, we walked out of the room and one devotee, a Prabhupada disciple, Jalakar Prabhu, he was standing outside and he said, "What did Gurudev say?" And I'm like, "He's making us just as a team travel and preach." And he laughed. He said, "Do you know when Srila Prabhupada would marry any boy and girl, he would say, 1 and 1 makes 11. Now you are a strong preaching team. Go and open this temple. Go to this country." He said, "So now you are strong."
So we had gone back to our place and we were thinking about it. Like Gurudev said, if you don't follow my order, you will lose your kirtan. And so we were discussing, it would be such a shame to lose that thing which we have never actually experienced.
He said, we haven't actually received real kirtan. It would be a shame to lose it.
And so we were discussing, like, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? And so the very next day, we were there at the festival in New Braj, and one devotee, what was his name? Is it Harikatha? I can't remember. So he came running and he found us and he said, Gurudev gave me an order. He said, I'm not allowed to return and see him unless I have you both. And so I'm just going to be near you
They took
until
us
you're
out
ready.
of class.
Yeah, we were in class and they were like, so you have to come with us to see Gurudev. And so we went to go see Gurudev. Gurudev said, so have you made your decision? We're like, we were really, really scared. We were like, we'll try to follow your order to travel and preach. And Gurudev was like, it'll be so easy. He said, just read a little, speak a little, read a little, speak a little. After 1 or 2 weeks, it will become easy. And well, it wasn't exactly 1 or 2 weeks. It was like 1 or 2 years. But anyhow, he gave that instruction, that order. And as I think we were about 25 at the time, 26. We were quite young. And he just basically took over and he sent us continually traveling around the world from that time and always reporting back to him. Sometimes, we would collect any donations and give it to him. And when other devotees would be there, sometimes we'd give a donation, say, oh, you don't have to give me anything. How will you maintain? And then he would look at the next one. You have to give me everything. So he was very, always encouraging us, always giving us so much inspiration, and like his little children. And I felt like that. Like the very first time I saw him, well, not the very first time, but when I saw him that time in Navadip in 96, as all the devotees were about ready to leave, one after another was offering obeisance to him. Except it was different than what we were accustomed to in ISKCON. In ISKCON, you weren't allowed to touch their feet because you would give them your karma and you might make them sick. Here, there was one devotee, they touched his feet and offered their pranam. The next one, touching the feet, offering their pranam. The next one, put their head on his feet. And I was like 6 or 7 in the line. The one that went before me, she put her head on his feet and was just boom, boom, boom. And I was thinking, I guess I have to do that too. So I just copied her. I put my head on his feet, and I just felt like a puppy, a baby dog that was just so excited to be there, at the feet of his master at that time. And Sudevi also in the beginning, she told Gurudev that she was afraid to touch his feet.
No.
I'm not going to tell your story.
I told him, I'm afraid to touch your feet because I don't want to give you my karma. And he said, oh, you shouldn't think like this. He then began to tell that the perfection of the head is to put your head at the feet of the Vaishnava, your hands to touch them, your eyes to have their darshan, your nose to smell the garlands that they've worn, your ears to hear their Harikatha. And then he said, from every pore of their body, of a transcendental personality, prema bhakti is emanating.
He said,
Gurudev would say prem atoms. So we should finish.
So apparently we have a lot more to say, but it is after 9:30 here in Vrindavan. And it feels like we're just getting started. Actually, Srila Gurudev has given so much. And we just told some of the foundational interactions that we've had with him, what lessons he gave in our own interactions and dealings regarding her initiation, regarding when I first saw him and how he was treating us, that if you don't know this basic thing, how can you preach? So in every interaction with Gurudev, some people think, it's just an interaction, it doesn't have much meaning. But actually, because he's a transcendental person, everything, every lesson he gives, everything that he would say, it has such deep meaning. And as one is progressing or moving or even shifting on the path of bhakti, each interaction, because it is not mundane, will bring new and new jewels with it. And we've experienced this over and over again, that it's not some mundane, static thing. Oh yeah, remember when that happened 20 years ago? And that's just the way it is. But when Gurudev is giving some instruction, like what he told her, if you've already given up all of these lesser things, then you should be giving initiation, not accepting. And that is verified by the very first verse of Upadeshamrita. So through the medium of his practical, sweet, and affectionate dealings, he was also revealing all of this essential Tattva Siddhanta, the teachings of our Rupa and Guru Varga. It was with every activity, like that one Sudevi had heard, we had heard that Gurudev, he had lost his hearing. And so Sudevi, when we approached Gurudev, Sudevi told Gurudev,
I said, Gurudev, what happened? You can't hear. He said, I don't know. It's gone. And he said, everyone is so concerned. Everyone is worried. What happened? What happened? But I am happy. He said, I'm so happy. Before, everyone would come to me with so many problems and problems. He said, now I see people coming and they're moving their mouths and saying so many things. But all I hear them say is Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna.
And also that one. Well, I just, because of that.
Once I was hearing that Srila Gurudev contracted tuberculosis when he served the Mohan brahmachari. So if you don't know this, I'll tell it very quickly. One very dear disciple of our Param Gurudev, Srila Bhakti-Vedanta Gosvami Maharaj, he contracted tuberculosis. His disciple, Ananga Mohan brahmachari. So Param Gurudev was caring for him. And after some time, Gurudev told Param Gurudev, you have so many more important things that you should be doing because no one would take care of it. They were frightened. So Gurudev said, I will do it. So Gurudev took care of Ananga Mohan brahmachari. And if you've heard Gurudev speak this, or if you've read in Param Gurudev's biography, Gurudev tells how he realized that this personality was not ordinary. He started to call out, Ha Krishna, hey Radhe, hey Gurudev, you have come, you have come. And he started calling out to them. Gurudev jumped up and grabbed his feet. And he said, don't forget me. Remember my name to them also. But Gurudev contracted tuberculosis. And in those times was not easy to be rid of. So I went to Gurudev and I asked him, is it true you contracted tuberculosis? And he said, yes. He said, we have given our head for the service of our God. We have given our head. And then he just looked at me shaking his head. Like, this is very important, that we are willing to give everything, to sacrifice everything. And even that wouldn't be enough for what Sri Guru has bestowed upon us. Our own head, thousands and millions of lifetimes. Even Srila Gurudev said, you cannot repay. How can we repay what is given us? We don't even really, truly understand the extent of what Srila Gurudev has given us. What to speak of being able to repay. And the last thing I just want to say is that one time Gurudev told me to repeat something that I heard him speak to a new person, and I was shy because it was in front of Gurudev. I said, I can't, Gurudev, I'm too shy. He said, oh, just anything little you should repeat. Oh, Gurudev, I can't. I said, anyhow, we've all come here to hear you speak. And Gurudev said, yes. But sometimes the father likes to hear the baby say, goo, goo, gaga. And so on that note, I just want to say thank you for letting us goo, goo, gaga about our Gurudev. This is the most important subject of our lives. Our Gurudev, our Guru Padma, he has given us everything. We are so completely indebted to him. What to speak of revolutionizing our lives? It's lifetimes, not just this one lifetime, lifetimes. We are so fortunate and indebted to him. It's unfathomable. So thank you for giving us this opportunity to remember and to glorify and to share some little bit of the inspiration that we've received on this path of bhakti and coming in contact with such great personalities.
So I think we've gone over the time. So did you want us to?
Should I take that out?
Yes.
Yes.
We're going to pull out the microphone there so we can hear you.
Yeah.
Can you hear?
Yes, I can hear you nicely. Can you hear me, Prabhuji?
Yes.
You can speak for some more time if you are comfortable. Everybody wants to hear more. So, yeah, you can go for 10-15 minutes till 10 o'clock is good. No problem.
Okay, so should I plug this back in?
No, we can hear you nicely. No worries. Let it be.
Okay.
Okay.
Once upon a time. This is one of my favorite remembrances of Srila Gurudev. It was a very hot and humid day. And we were in. So all of the devotees had gone ahead from one side of the island to the other side to prepare for our Srila Gurudev's arrival. And the Gurudev was taking exceptionally long time to arrive. I think they had to make stops along the way.
Prabhuji, your sound is cutting off, I think.
I should plug it in.
Yeah, it's not.
I'll plug it in.
Or you keep it close to you. It's quite far, I think. That's the problem.
Radhe, Radhe.
Okay, let me try to make it closer.
Because now your sound is very clear. When you come close to the mic.
Yeah, that's me.
No, it's okay now?
It looks okay now, yeah.
It's okay?
Yeah, it's fine now.
Keep going.
So we were doing kirtan because they said, Gurudev is coming, Gurudev is coming. We were very excited. And then they said, you know, we're doing kirtan for 10 minutes. And then they said, oh, he's not coming yet. And then again, after some time, Gurudev is coming. And then again, oh, he's not coming. 3-4 hours. It was like 4 hours went by. And finally, Gurudev was arriving. But it was very, very hot and humid. So Gurudev came in. We were doing kirtan, all jumping up and down. Jai Gurudeva, Jai Gurudeva. And he didn't really acknowledge us. He just walked past all of us. We were like, where's Gurudev going? We had the good bath water ready for him, a nice chair and all of the abhishek for his feet. And we were so excited, Gurudev is coming. But he went straight to the restroom. And we were like, okay, maybe he needs to. We're like, okay, that makes sense. He's been on a long drive. But then he came out wearing a gamsha. And we were like, we've never seen anyone receive their foot abhishek wearing only a gamsha. What's going to happen? So we're Jai Gurudeva, and he just walked past all of us. And we're like, where is he going? He's not sitting in the chair. He's not taking the abhishek. We're like, what's happening? So he goes out, he opens the sliding glass doors, goes outside, enters into the swimming pool, and just back and forth for like 10 minutes. And we're like, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. We're like, what's gonna, do we give him a foot bath after he's had a bath? And just, what are we gonna do with this? And we were all a little bit confused. We're like, Jai Gurudeva. And then he comes out of the pool and he comes back past all of us. And then he looks back he was walking past us and he looks back and he said, your foot water is there. You can have as much as you like. So all the devotees ran and just jumped in the pool. It was very funny as well. You know, he had such a great sense of humor. Your foot water is there. And so all the devotees went and jumped in. Well, some Krishnadas Prabhu and I were just standing there watching all of the devotees, and Brajanath Prabhu came behind us and just pushed us. And we went inside. But that kind of sweetness mood, Srila Gurudev had that capacity to just melt all of our hearts. And that was the place when we were all staying like crammed in those two little apartments. Remember?
Right.
Can you share that?
There were about maybe 25, 30 devotees, and we were all staying in this really, really small house. Like, it was, I don't even know how to explain. There was
Sleeping
no
room
room.
only.
There was no room to walk, and everybody was just in the small, tiny place. And it was quite far from where Gurudev was staying. So we were there for one day and one night, and then we were able to go to where Gurudev was staying. So we had a little bus, and we were being driven straight to where Gurudev's place was. And as we're going there, we're looking, the houses are getting bigger and bigger. And it was like this huge mansion. And we're all like, whoa, look at where Gurudev is staying. So we went inside this beautiful, big, rich kind of mansion. And Gurudev looked at all of us and said, oh, he said, you are all so fortunate. It's like you are there in Vrindavan. You're all together and you're so happy and joyful. Here I'm alone, I'm in Dwarka. And we were like, oh, at first we were thinking, oh, you know, it's like a palace. It must be nice for him. And he was thinking how nice it is for you that you are all together, sitting like, you know, even on top of each other, but joyful and chanting and remembering. He said, I'm just here alone in Dwarka. It's so sweet.
Sudevi is the kind of person that gets easily teased. Well, at least Gurudev, seeing her as his little daughter, had some kind of nature to tease her. So from time to time he would. And it was very sweet, that kind of relationship, to see him interacting like that. One time we were at Auntie Punja's house, and there was going to be some initiation, there was a fire yagya. Maharaj, that time he was living Krishna Brahmachari, he was doing the yagya. And as you know, when he gives an order, you follow the order.
I somehow was resistant.
So he's like, Sudevi, where's the fruit? We need fruit. Where's the fruit? Bring fruit. And Sudevi's like, fruit, fruit, fruit. So she jumps up to go get the fruit.
And I start running into the house to go and get fruit. And all of a sudden, as I open the door, Gurudev is just standing there and he's not moving.
In the doorway.
And I'm panicking because Madhav Maharaj, well, Nabi Krishna Prabhu is really scary. So I'm like, Gurudev. He goes, why? He started speaking extremely slow. He said, why are you going so fast? I said, Gurudev, I have to get fruit. Madhav Maharaj is doing the yagya. And he said, but why so fast? And I just became like, Gurudev. And I just went around him and ran and cut fruit, got it. And I ran back out, and Gurudev was already gone. And I helped Naveen Krishna Prabhu, Madhav Maharaj, and we did the yagya. Well, he did the yagya, and I assisted. And then all of a sudden it hit me. I just got like annoyed with Gurudev. And I thought, oh my gosh, what will happen? Will I go to hell? Because I was like, Gurudev, I'm busy, you know, I have to go. And then I thought, oh no, you don't treat your Gurudev like that. And so there were senior devotees there when they saw Gurudev doing that. And I went and I said, I'm so afraid I made Guru Aparad. I made a mistake. I didn't even offer my pranam. I just walked around him. And they said, no, don't say anything. You brought him joy. He came out of the room for that exchange, laughed, and went back in the room. They said, don't go to him and say anything. He enjoyed that. So it was very sweet.
We also received the opportunity to make sandesh. You know, that Bengali sweet made with very, very refined paneer and just the right amount of sugar, sweetness. And we made 2 different flavors. The most smooth we could make, we made it very soft, gentle, sweet. One was rose flavored, the other was saffron flavored. And of course, because it's being offered to Gurudev, Naveen Krishna Brahmachari, subsequently Gurudev Madhav Maharaj, he placed many pieces on his plate. And of course, Gurudev was only supposed to take half a piece or 1 piece.
Like, you know, just...
and then give the rest back. When we came to see Gurudev, Gurudev told us, Naveen was so angry with me.
I'm in
so much trouble. And we're like, what happened? He said, your sandesh was so good, I ate everything. And we were like, oh no. He said, I'm in such big trouble. And then but it was amazing because at that moment, Gurudev took the opportunity to bring that subject to a very intimate, personal detail of how to serve Thakurji, Radha and Krishna. He said one thing. He said, We don't offer saffron to Radha and Krishna in the summer because it's very heating. And we had never known that before, but we had just given him all of these saffron sandeshas. And
Fiji is very hot.
Fiji is very hot. So just with that one little interaction, we learned something very important about how to seva, how to serve Radha and Krishna with care and attention, that we should give them what is good and appropriate for them, not just what we like, but what is good for them. And so this was one of Srila Gurudev's specialties. There was nothing that you could do or say or any activity that didn't somehow get turned into some mood of seva or understanding of how to serve Hari Guru and Vaishnavas, how to serve Radha and Krishna. So he was so expert at dovetailing all of these different things. But once we made a very, very amazing cake. I think, was it chocolate?
Yeah, it was chocolate cake.
Oh, it was the best chocolate cake we'd ever made. It was so moist, but soft and cooked through. And we were so proud of this chocolate cake. And we didn't realize that what they call devil's food chocolate cake, for our perspective, that was the best thing. But Gurudev came from Mathura, where the cakes were made with atta. So if you've ever made a cake with atta, it's a bit more robust, dense, and strong. And so Gurudev calls us to his room and he says, "Your cake?" And we were like, "Yes." And he said, "Too much ras. I like somewhat dry." And we were thinking, what happened to our Gurudev? Gurudev is saying he likes dry, it's got too much ras. But anyhow, these interactions were just so sweet and heart-touching and heart-melting. And of course, I know that so many have been sharing so many of Gurudev's teachings about, especially like Rayaman and Samvad. Gurudev gave everything. He refined everything in such detail, and he didn't leave any wiggle room. Everything, every concept that we had heard of relating to Rupanuga Bhakti, Srila Gurudev refined it, spoke about the Svarupa of the Jiva. He spoke about Srila Prabhupada's Svarup. He spoke about what is Rupanuga, and he gave so many clear examples and deep understandings how to process and assimilate and how it makes sense. So it was nothing that you could kind of say, oh, well, maybe this, maybe that. Gurudev's conviction was so strong, and especially in his own Gurudev. One time, we had written to him, and he was talking to us about apara. And he said, there was one time in one place where they had offended my Guru. He said, to this day, I have not set foot in that place. He said, this is Guru Nishta. And so our Srila Gurudev, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayana Gosvami Maharaj, embodied that mood of Nishta, firm conviction in the lotus feet of his Gurudev, Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj, that his Gurudev had in Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada. And Srila Gurudev wanted to impress that mood onto all of his disciples, always speaking on this subject matter. Guru Nishta is the backbone of Bhakti. And he was also expressing that even before I leave this world, I want that all my disciples come to the point of Nishta. He really wanted to increase our greed, our thirst for Krishna Bhakti Rasa. Always speaking about Krishna, speaking the sweet pastimes of Krishna, somehow or other, trying to attract our minds away from all of the mundane world and bring it to topics of Krishna Bhakti Rasa. But as Sudevi just picked up her card calls, I was thinking, for us, one time I was in the kitchen baking pineapple upside down cake for the entire festival in New Braj, which I did every single year, very proudly because it's a good cake. And Srila Gurudev was there, 15 minutes in, he speaks into the microphone, "Where's Kishori Mohan?" So I came out from around the bamboo curtain with my apron on, and he said, "Your seva is to always be here in Kirtan. Others can do that seva." So for me at that moment, I realized what I'm doing for my own pratishta or even for the pleasure of everyone else, if it is not pleasing to Gurudev, then it's not worth it. I took off the apron, gave it to someone else, told them to check it in 30 minutes, and I went and sat down for kirtan. So Gurudev utilized us in the kirtan seva. One of his first instructions to me, I think it was 1996 or maybe 98, he said, you should always sit in front of me with any, so that I can use kirtan whenever I like. And that is a very powerful and deep instruction that every time I think about it, it goes deeper and deeper. That really, not just myself, but for all disciples, that instruction should be the resonating instruction inside the heart of every disciple, that I should be able to be the instrument for my Gurudev to do whatever he likes to do with me. And this mood will bring us, hopefully, to Guru Nishta. If we can develop that mood where we can always be ready to utilize by Gurudev as his instrument, then he can take that and teach us how to be utilized by Radha and Krishna as their instrument. In fact, he told one brahmachari once, he was using harmonium and singing, brahmachari should never touch a musical instrument. And he said, give him the harmonium. And I was like, I don't want it. But he said, give it to him. And so brahmachari gave me the harmonium. And then he said to Nemi Maharaj, that time Gyanadas Prabhu, where's your violin? He said, oh, it's being repaired in Delhi. He said, arrange for one in here. A man should never be without his instrument. So Gurudev would use us in kirtan so many times, especially every time he would have us sing that Australia Hare Krishna. But one bhajan that I would like to sing in remembrance of Srila Gurudev is the one that he wrote himself. And his Gurudev wrote that line, Narayana Balihari. So Braja Janamana Sukhakari Radhe Shyam Shyama Shyam.
Is that okay? Is there enough time for that? And then we'll finish?
Yes, yes, please go ahead. Please.
Okay.
You should be comfortable. You've been speaking for so long. So if you
Oh,
can
no,
wait
no,
for
no, that's
some-
not long yet.
He could go for 24 hours speaking
I
about
know.
Gurudev and Bhakti. Really, he could.
She can go for 48 hours. Shri Radhe Braja Janamana Sukhakari Radhe Shyama 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 Radhe Radhe Shyama 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 Radhe Shyam Shyama Shyama Radhe
Shama 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 Radhe Shama Shama Shama
Radhe Shyam Shyama Shyam Radhe Shiva Varadhanadhari Radhe Shyam Shyama Shyam Radhe Radhe Shyam Shyama Shyam Radhe Sajana Manasukari Radhe Shyam Shyama Shyam Radha Krishna Nitya Bado Gaura Rupayamatari Radha Krishna Nitya Bado Gaura Rupayamatari Kirtan Dharma Kachari Radhe Shyama 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 Radhe Kirtan Dharma Kachari Radhe Shama 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 Radhe 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 Sajana Manasukari Radhe Shama Shama Nam Rupayamatari Bina Mere Adamatari Nam Rupayamatari Jagannath Prema Bihari Radhe Shyama 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 Radhe Jagannath Prema Bihari Radhe Shyama 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 Narayana Manihari Radhe Shyama 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 Narayana Manihari Radhe Shyama 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 Radhe Narayana Manihari Radhe Shyama 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 Radhe Narayana Manihari Radhe Shama 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 Radhe 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 Gurudev ki jai, Mohan ki jai, Guruvarga ki jai, Krishnachinandana Gaur Hari ki jai, Nityananda Prabhu ki jai, Radha Vinu Bihari ki jai, Radha ki jai, Giriraj Maharaj ki jai, Mahamantra ki jai, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai,
Hari Hari. Prabhu, you would like to give darshan of your Thakurji? I hope he is still awake.
Yes, they are still awake.
You can introduce them to everyone.
Gurudev did Pran Pratishtha of them in 1998.
Yes.
Nadamu Dharmadaveti Govindadamu Dharmadaveti Govindadamu Dharmadaveti Govindadamu Dharmadaveti Bolo Radhe 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 Jai 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 Shri Ram Radhe 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 Jai 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 Shri Radhe 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 Jai 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 Shri Radhe Shri Vino Bihari Jugu ki Jai 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 Shri Radhe Jai Shri Radhe Jai Jai Shri Radhe Shyam.
Jai Ho. Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. It was so wonderful. I've never had so many comments on this program as today. Especially Anjali Didi and Rudra Prabhu. So maybe if they want to speak something also, because they have been commenting so much. Anjali Didi, you want to say something about Prabhuji?
Yeah, they should say something.
Yes, Anjali Didi, you want to say something? You can come on the camera. Yeah, speak. Because I can't hear you. Wait. You have to unmute yourself. I'll open the mic for you. Yeah, you can unmute yourself now.
Dweep, dweep, dweep. It's, what can I say? You have mentioned in your Sadhu Sangha class every day that Krishna does not know how amazing he is until he sees how the gopis just are happy in being able to respond. Wow, he is so amazing. You have every single katha, pretty much, I think we have heard in your Sadhu Sangha class. However, when you repeat it, and because it's so sincere and so full of heart and joy, it is so awesome all over again. And thank you. My boss will hear about it later. You know, nothing to do, Baba, nothing to do. It's hearing both of you. Totally worth it. Gurudev Katha ki jai.
So nice, Anjali. Thank you, Anjali Didi. Thank you so much. And Rudra Prabhu, you want to say something also? You've been commenting a lot. I mean, they were always busy doing comments. So you can say something. Wait, you can unmute yourself, Prabhuji.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was really amazing, and Kishori, Mohan, Prabhuji, and Sudevi, Didi have always been inspiring, and they make me fall in love with Gurudev more and more every time I hear.
Great.
Oh.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Thank you so much.
That's the perfection of our seva. If anyone feels any inclination for our Gurudev, feels any appreciation towards him,
Prabhuji, thank you so much for being with us and giving so much of your time. I know it's been a busy day for you, speaking from 5 o'clock till 10 o'clock. It's been 5 hours. But I know Vaishnavas are always ready to glorify their Gurudev, especially they get so much energy just by the thought of glorifying the Gurudev. And it's so nice. I can see your life, how wonderfully it moved. And Gurudev, so nicely, he arranged it in such a beautiful fashion towards Krishna, which was sort of going a little bit here and there in the beginning. Even though you were in devotees' tongue, and even though you were living in temple, but you had no proper ashraya, I would say, even though you were learning all the prayers and the kirtans and the Harikathas, but you were a little bit loose, going here and there. But when Gurudev came, he bind you together and in the firm path to Sri Krishna. I can see this from what you said. And you used a very nice word. He revolutionized everything. A revolution came in your life. Yes, we can see that very clearly, the revolution. And then another very important thing here is the importance of having a Vaishnava father. how your dad told you, did a deal with you for $300. I mean, this is what yen ken prakaren. So if you have a Vaishnava family or a Vaishnava father, then he can guide you very smartly towards good path. And he made you meet Mahabhagavat. He requested you to meet Puri Maharaj, then Gurudev. So that was the starting of everything, I think, because you came to meet Gurudev. So I think your dad's hand is also there in all this,
Yes.
what you did today.
He was actually very instrumental
Yes.
for us.
So having a Vaishnava father is and a Vaishnava mother is so good, and all those people who are listening, they should also guide their children like what Prabhuji's father has given guidance to him by smartness or by directly or indirectly, anyways, so that their kids go on the correct path. Yes, and it'll be good for them in the future. Now we are reaping the fruits of that small thing which he did for you so many years back. That $300, you are now getting so much from that. So, and then you also spoke about a shell of uncertainty and mistrust, which you had. It was all flowed when you met Gurudev. Yes, when you meet him, he is so open and so nice. He's so childlike, so smooth, so serene, that when you meet him, you totally trust him, and everything else is removed from everywhere. So yeah, you said everything was sorted out immediately when you met him. And then you described very nice incident about how they were giving such good Harikatha, they're displaying their knowledge. But somebody stood up and said, we came here to feel and weep for my Gurudev, not to hear lofty ideas. The idea is to feel. Love is something which is felt in heart. It is not in the brain. All these computers can store so much information. So they are much better than us in storing information. But we as humans, we can feel in our heart. And that's what a guru does. He puts that thing in the heart, which you could feel. And suddenly you said the whole mood changed. And all the gyan was out and the love was in that meeting.
Yes.
So that was so beautifully described by you. And you talked about cookie movement, and you were called a big cookie girl because you got the biggest cookie. Yes, that was very sweet. Because you offered pranam very boldly. Yes, if you offer pranam to Mahabhagavat in any stage, it will be always beneficial. We don't know the benefits of it, but still we'll get so much in return. And then you talked about Gaur Govind Maharaj, and you also said that you were not able to get so much association because he was like a roaring lion. Yes, I've heard some of his lectures. He was actually like a roaring lion. And he would ask audience, somebody to stand up, and he'll start shouting so loudly. Yes, anybody can get fearful and stay away. He was somewhat like our Trivikram Maharaj, little more maybe. Trivikram Maharaj was still a little less.
Scary.
Yes. But we have to be very careful in this regard, and we should learn from this incident which you described, that Vaishnavas come in various styles and modes, but they are all, after all, Vaishnavas at heart. They all have great love for Krishna and Radha.
He's one of our biggest inspirations, actually.
Yes, yes. So we should not turn away from a Vaishnava by his outer looks or the way he speaks, the way he looks and talks, because otherwise we'll miss a lot of things. I have missed a lot of things from Trivikram Maharaj. I didn't go in front of him so much as I should have, because again, I was a little scared what you described. So yeah, we should not look at his outer things of a Vaishnava. You want to say something, Prabhuji?
Yeah, in 1996, some devotees were telling us, oh, his mood might be different than Gurudev. Gurudev said you should go to his classes and hear from him. He has so much good to give. And he said he might look mean, but actually he's very soft. And so he encouraged us to go, and from that moment, we would always hear from him.
Go to Pujapad Trivikram Maharaj.
Yes.
Okay, yes. Yeah, they had so many sweet interactions.
Very soft.
Yes. And he would always go against Gurudev to let Gurudev speak something really nice Harikatha. He will get all the Harikatha out of Gurudev by hook or crook, you know. Otherwise, he wouldn't speak so much about Radha Tattva. So he will take a position against him, like he will start supporting Krishna, and then Gurudev will come very forcefully. So these are all tricks Vaishnavas use for our good, for our kalyan. And then Didi, you described so nicely how you wanted to be Meera. and how he wanted to be queen in Dwarka. Who would not want to be queen in Dwarka with all the facilities and the mahal and everything? Yes, it is very. But when Gurudev, you met Gurudev, everything was out of the window, and he gave us such sweet mood that none of the queens can ever be equated to that mood, this sweet mood which Gurudev gave. And then Gurudev told you, I'm aware of everything. Oh, you said when you came for Diksha, you said, I cannot take Diksha now because I've got so many shortcomings and I'm like this. And Gurudev told you, I'm aware of everything. How will you give it up unless you have higher taste? Yes, this is very important. If you already give it up, then you should be giving Diksha, not taking Diksha. So yes, we are not perfect. We have to accept what we are as we are, and we should be proud of. We should not try to be somebody else. We should be what we are, as Prabhuji and Didi are doing. I've seen them for so long, and they are so original. That's why they impress everybody's heart. They are what they are. They don't try to copy or they don't try to become somebody else. So yes, so Gurudev knows everything, and he knows our heart, and slowly then things will become better. That's what happened. That's what we can see, how he will slowly improve you. And then he talked about your becoming queen also. Then you were surprised. How did he knew that I was praying to be a queen? Yes, he knows everything for everyone, whosoever he sees ever. And then at 23 years of age, you started running towards Braj Vrindavan. You forgot about the queen and Dwarka and anything. And you were running towards Vrindavan. That's what you said. And yeah, this is a very beautiful description you gave. Everything was for this moment, whatever you have done until now in your life, to have those cookies, to do those pranams, to do those prayers, to recite those whatever, to meet Gurudev. Everything became successful, and it was for that very moment when you met Gurudev, so beautifully described by you. And to put me on the path of my eternal beloved. That's what you made a statement, which is very nice and very true. Our life is successful only when we meet our Guru, and then he guides us on the correct path. Then you also told very nicely how those cookies had a seed of the hidden mood, which was given by Prabhupada to you. And that seed became, started nourishing, and it became like a plant when it came to Gurudev, when he came to Gurudev. All those cookies started bearing fruit now. And then I really liked your faith in the very first meeting when you met Gurudev. You said it was like Krishna telling through the mouth of Gurudev. Yes, it is actually a fact, but it takes a long time for a disciple to get to this kind of understanding, which I'm so happy that you were having it on the very first meeting, that you were, even though God and Krishna and Guru are same, it is told many times to us, but the realization does not come so easy. It takes a little time. But it was good for you that you immediately you realized this, that Krishna is speaking through Gurudev. And then Didi, you described that to take Diksha, you're ready to give up everything, even Prabhuji, even your husband. So that is something like gopis, I can say that, because gopis were also ready to give up everything for Krishna. So yes, we should have the same mood for Gurudev, and if we can, we should be ready to give up everything like you did. And Prabhuji also eventually came. Gurudev caught him also on the way to Canada or somewhere. He went to his house straight away. After he gave you Diksha, he went hunting for your husband, that now I want to get him also. And he went in that small house where so many people were staying in that t-shirt factory. So Gurudev can go anywhere to get his disciple. He can go to any small place, big place, does not matter. He's just looking for a pure heart, which he can offer in the feet of Radha and Krishna. So you described how he stopped at your house, he claimed you, and then how you were dreaming for weeks. Yes, if you have a calling in your heart, Gurudev will come to you. That's what they say. If you desire for Gurudev, he will appear in front of you. You don't have to go anywhere. And I can see in your life that he appeared in your house. He just came from, yeah, because you were dreaming about him for a week or so. So Gurudev appears. The only thing, we should have a desire. We don't have to go anywhere. We don't have to do anything. Just we need to pray and have a longing. And then you described so many beautiful qualities of Gurudev. He was so simple, gentle, personable, impressive, accessible. Yes, all these are very beautiful qualities of Srila Gurudev. Normally, in sannyasis in ISKCON are not very accessible. That's what I've heard, even though I don't have a direct experience of it, but I've heard. But here, Gurudev was so accessible. He would sit with you. He would be on sofa with you. He would be talking to you like as your family member, and he would know everything about your family. In fact, each person he would know details about the family members, what the brothers, sisters, who's doing what, and he'll ask personal questions. So he used to keep track of everything. And then he talked about Kirtan and Sangeet. Yes, this Gurudev lay a lot of emphasis on this fact that Sangeet is technical ability of playing instruments like harmonium and other things. And Kirtan is something transcendental, which is filled with love and with the feeling of the heart. So he never actually lays so much importance of instruments. He said even you can clap and do a kirtan, or even without clap, and sometimes you should also stop all the instruments and you will sing. He says this is kirtan now, you can sing like this. So he told us what is of essence, what is important and what is not. And oh, he also talked about how kirtan becomes potent after Harinam. Before Harinam, we are just singing, and after Harinam, it has that potency of Gurudev. Yes. And then you describe how he picked you like flowers. And he told you should become strong, come in the process. Yes. If Gurudev likes somebody so much, he will put all his efforts to bring him in the process. But sometimes he would let them be. He said, okay, take your time and come when you want to come. But in your case, I think he put a little bit of his energy to get you immediately, because your wife was already initiated. So he didn't want to leave you alone like that for a long time.
Sudevi was afraid that he might not recognize her. And she asked him, I don't know if you will remember me. But
I said, I'm afraid you won't know me when I see you again. And he said, I will know your husband because he is with my darling doctor. And I was like,
Yes.
oh.
He was so charming.
Because Gurudev looked at overall picture. He looked at the families, how they should be together, how like both wheels of a cart, it should go together. So he looked at overall good of his disciple. He didn't, he just didn't want disciples. He just wanted to give them correct direction, right direction. And then you describe how people don't touch their feet in ISKCON. I've never seen this with Maharaj anytime. Even when he was sick, he would not stop anybody touching his feet. He did not care if he becomes more sick, but he wanted to give his mercy at any cost. He would not hold his mercy for his own health or anything. I've seen this with Gurudev, even though that might be true what they say, that when you touch somebody's feet, you take his energy. It might, maybe it is true for sure, I think. But Gurudev had unlimited energy, I think. Any amount of energy he could give and he'll be still full. Like they say, Purnasya Purnamidam, he's always full, infinite. So he didn't bother. He said, go do, touch whatever you want, put your head, put your feet, put your hands, whatever you want to put. He didn't bother at all, anytime. Then you describe a very sweet incident about the magnifying mirror, how he was playing ignorant, even though he had that mirror in his own bathroom and he knew everything about it. So he just wanted to be among us and he just wanted to make us comfortable and, lovable. So he would do this sweet, small leelas, very sweet. And then you talked about letter, how you would write letter to him from a few houses away only in New Zealand or Australia somewhere. Huh? And then Gurudev chastised you for this. He said, why are you writing letters? You should open your heart to Gurudev. Yes, he insisted on this. I remember once he was staying in our house and one lady came to give her some fruit she bought for Gurudev. But she gave it to my wife and she said, you should give it to Gurudev. He said, why don't you give it yourself? She said, no, I'm not dressed properly. She was wearing a trouser and a shirt or something, Western dress. She said, no, I'm not dressed properly. She said, no, you can go and give it to him. She was very shy, so she left it with my wife and she went away. And after some time, my wife went to the Gurudev. He was sitting in the backyard. He said, Maharaj, some lady got this for you. He said, where is she? He said, she didn't want to come because you're not wearing proper clothes. He said, this is not like this. if you go to a doctor and you have something at in Hindi said, अगर तुम्हारे चूतड़ पे कुछ होगा तुम दिखाओगे नहीं डॉक्टर को. That means if you have something on your buttocks and you won't show it to your doctor then. So he was that straightforward. That if you should open everything to your Gurudev, don't hide anything from him. Yeah. So that's what he told you. I can see here that when you're writing letters to him, he said, why are you writing letters? Come in front of me and talk to me. Oh, then he a very sweet Leela he did with you on the phone. This shows how much of a bonding you had with Gurudev. He was talking on phone and he started acting with you, and you also started acting, and both of you did some small sweet Leela. So yeah, who can do like this? Which Guru? I have never seen any sannyasi doing like this, so sweetly playing like Brajvasi. It's like it's true Braj Bhav actually. So intimate with disciples, and so pure, so nice. And then when he got you married in Seva Kunj, he said, where is dowry? He said, you are my father, you're going to give dowry. So that was so sweet of you also. I must say your presence of mind and the way you answered it is, I mean, you are true Guru's disciple, like him only. He said, you are my father, you will be giving dowry, not me. Yeah, so all we disciples had so much of sweet interaction with him, which are so valuable than any shastras, I would say. So, and then yeah, he said there's no divorce in your life, and how he said you have to take permission from each and every one of us, and then finally you have to come to me, and my answer is no already. So basically he closed all the doors for you. And yes, you are doing a great seva by being an example of a couple, of a Western couple who is together for years and years and doing your seva so diligently and so nicely, preaching all over the world. And you said, yeah, we can do this seva because Gurudev told you he wanted to set example, and which you also followed very nicely. And then yeah, then he ordered you to make a team and preach. I can understand now in the hindsight it does not look very big, but for a lady it's a big thing to not have a house of her own and then be on a trip all the time, traveling by the suitcase. It is not easy especially for ladies, I can understand. But and it was difficult for you also, as you described. And then Gurudev said, you should not worry for money, it will come. Yeah, we all worry for money, and it is very difficult not to worry for money, especially if you are married and if you are not a sannyasi. Sannyasis can get some money because they wear those clothes and they have the danda, it has some effect. People give some donation. But
when we need help, it's usually the sannyasis that help us.
Yeah.
Really, the sannyasis give donations if we really need help.
It is only because you have special mercy of Gurudev, I think. Not any couple, I have not seen any couple like you besides you, because you have a very special mercy of Srila Gurudev. You have his hand and you have followed his order. Anyone who follows his order will always get his mercy, will always. So he told you not to worry about money, and you were still worrying, and immediately you got 2,000 pounds in your hand. Then in the very next moment, and he showed you, see, I was telling you not to worry about money. And the thing started. So maybe I think that must have given you great relief. Yeah, it works. What Gurudev is saying, we should have faith in him. And yes, so slowly by these small incidents in lives, he gives us that realization that yes, Gurudev can give anything. He can do whatever. He's Sakshat Haritven. He is Hari himself. So that realization, he will take you slowly by holding your hand, pushing you sometimes, and slowly make you very pakka. As now we can see you become so pakka now. So you have traveled for 19 years like this without doing any work for making a living, only doing kirtan. I will not say without doing any work. You've been doing a lot of work, rather working more than the normal people who are doing the work. Every day you're giving 2-3 hours class in the evening very diligently, and today you've done for 5 hours. So you're doing a lot of work, but not anything direct for yourself. You're doing everything for Guru and Vaishnavas and for Hari. So that thing, and you're spending like this for 19 years, and I think you're going to spend your whole life like this because it's Guru's order. I can see that.
Please bless us for that.
Yeah. Gurudev is blessing you, and he's not going to leave you so easily. He's going to take you by your hair to Radharani's feet. And he's going to leave you there, not before that. Don't worry. He's not going to leave any of us. Forget any of us. He's going to take all of us because he has taken responsibility and he has promised. He said, I've not promised you to give you money or anything, but I promised you to take you to Krishna. That promise I have given, and I will abide by it. Even if you go to Nark, I will go there and pull you out. He's told us. So he will do it. We have no doubt in this. Now or later, maybe. It depends on us how fast we want to go. Sometimes we want to take time. We want to see the whole world and we want to go take our own time. So he said, okay, do look at whatever you want to look. And sometimes we are ready, so he will take us straight away. So he wanted to set example of Grahast couple going to house of Grahast and having an intimate relationship with Grahast, and which is what you are doing, and everybody is liking it so much. Wherever you go, you are welcome, and the whole world is appreciating your seva. And then he gave you options also. You follow my order, you will do your kirtan will be very nice. If you don't, it will all go. And maybe it would have all gone if you had not followed, because his words are really strong. His voice, his words are really powerful, whatever he says. But because you followed, now everything is flourishing so beautifully, so well. And then you describe sweet Leela about bath and Abhishek in the swimming pool, how he ignored all of you. So Gurudev was very funny, and he was very alvel, I would say. He was very different. He was not conventional Guru. He was very unconventional in his ways. And you are singing, waiting for him. He's walking his gamcha to the swimming pool and taking a dip there. And he said, all the charnamrit is for you now, and go to the pool. So yeah, that was so sweet. It was like something like Brajavasis do with their other Brajavasis, yes. And then you talked about Saffron Sandesh, how he finished all of them, and how he loved what you made for him, and how he gave a nice teaching how to serve Thakurji with what ingredients. So all his leelas were full of teachings also. There was subtle teaching in every leela, every sweet leela he did. I ate all of them, Rudra is saying. So finally you talked about how you are being utilized by Gurudev as an instrument. Yes, that is the aim and object of every disciple, to become hollow from inside like a flute, so that your Guru can play his tune on you. So we all pray that someday we will become hollow. Right now our flute is full of so much dirt, so much ahankar, so much ego, so much false ego, that no tune can be played by anybody on it. But we pray that by Gurudev's mercy, someday all the dirt will go out and it will become hollow, so that Gurudev can play his beautiful tune to please Radha and Krishna, to please Brajavasis. So Prabhu, thank you very much. Didi, thank you so much. I offer my Dandavat pranams to both of you. Everybody wanted to have a second session, or maybe third, fourth, and fifth also. So we'll see. We will see if we can get you again. So
thank you so much.
We'll have some new pastimes, not these ones, next time when we call you. So
there's a lot.
I know you can speak for months together. You have so much association with Gurudev and so much of his mercy. We all feel very inspired by hearing stories of disciples who have been very intimate and who are doing so much service to Gurudev. It is very inspiring for all of us, and it will maybe help us a little bit in our own sadhana. So thank you, Prabhu. Dandavat pranams to you. And I thank all the listeners also who so enthusiastically listening till what time is it? 10:30, 10:35. So thank you so much, everybody. And tomorrow we are going to meet at the same time. We are going to have Radha Dasi with us from east of Kailash. So the program will be in Hindi tomorrow. And we'll again hear some beautiful memories from Radha Dasi. So thank you very much. Sri Kishori Mohan Prabhu ji ki jai. Sri Sudevi Didi ki jai. Guru Maharaj ki jai. Anant Koti Vaishnav Vrand ki jai. Gaur Bhakt Vrand ki jai. Hari Naam Sankirtan ki jai. Gaur
Jai.
Premanande Hari Hari.
Hari Hari
Jai
Bol.
Prabhu ki jai.
Jai Jai. Dandavat Pranam, all Vaishnavas.
Danda pranam.
I can see 57 comments while I was speaking. I don't know how to look at them now. So it's been very good participation from our listeners. I'm so happy.
Yes, they're very inspiring when you see
Yes,
that
so
comment.
inspiring, so inspiring.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Didi. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Dandavat pranams to you.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe. Hare
Jai Ho,
Krishna.
Jai Shri Radha.